Welcome to the Interesting Podcast, episode number 202. This episode is with the radiant gem of a human being known as Judy Alice Lee. On top of being a top-tier audio engineer, a fantastic actor, and a beautiful singer, Judy is also a blast to hang out with. In this episode, we talk about her growing up in LA, moving to Colorado, playing guitar, starting out as an intern at a music recording studio, how she got into VO, the many cool projects she's worked on, almost drowning while filming a music video, and so much more. Judy is amazing, and you are in for a treat, my friends. So buckle up, put your helmets on, and let's do this. Please enjoy this episode of the Interesting Podcast, number 202, with Judy Alice Lee. Theme song time.
My cabbages!
Day going? How are things?
Pretty good, pretty good. I can't complain. This week's been pretty busy,
Good,
and
good.
the last week's been pretty busy too. So I'm just trying to catch up.
Yeah.
I'm also filling my evenings quite a bit. That's kind of relatively new. So
Yeah? Okay.
yeah. It's been crazy,
Good.
but I have
Good.
no complaints. Yeah, it's going well. It's going well.
Good.
How about you? How are you?
Good. Very good. Also busy. I like being busy though. I find I'm
Me
not
too.
good with free time.
Yeah.
I got to do things.
I mean, I can enjoy like a good cup of coffee and a book, by the window. But
Sure.
at the same time, I want to know that I have other stuff going on in the day, like
Sure.
for sure. Yeah, the actor lifestyle is very different from the like full-time engineering lifestyle that I was, that I came
Oh
from.
yeah.
So I don't take it for granted though. I'll
Yeah.
take some spare hours here and there, but at the same time, yeah, busy bee is good.
Does it use a different part of your brain, acting versus engineering? Because I knowing nothing about engineering, I feel like that's a math brain, very technical.
It is quite technical, but it is also like in studio it's quite feeling based. Like you have to preemptively change the pre before the actor does, something
Oh,
explosive or something like that. So it's kind of intuitive in that way too.
sure.
But I have been told from directors that I need to take my engineering hat off when I'm acting because sometimes I'll hear my own mouth clicks and be like, "Oh, give me a second, guys," and they're like, "You just ruined a perfectly fine take, Judy. You need to not censor yourself that way." So I've been told I need to compartmentalize a little bit better, but I think as time goes on and the shift is happening more where my engineering in my lifestyle is becoming less and less.
Sure.
I think it's kind of happening naturally, but yeah. Anyways, does that answer your question?
Maybe. I don't follow these questions, Judy. I was just thinking about it today because you and I have an interesting start because with the people that I meet are in interesting scenarios. And you and I saw my first burlesque show together. I was like, wow.
Oh, that's right. I wasn't even paying attention though. I feel so bad. I should have been
Yeah.
paying more attention, but that was such a fun event that like I totally was
Right?
not.
Right? Dude,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
found out later you did some of the art in Julia's book.
Yes, I did. Yeah, she
What
commissioned me
can't
to
you do?
illustrate.
You do so many
Oh,
things.
thank you.
I'm a little suspicious of it. I'll be honest with you. I'm just saying,
I don't know what to
no
say.
one person should be that good at that many things. You're on my radar, Judy. I'm just saying.
You know what? I'm good at a few things, but you know what I'm terrible at?
Let's start there.
My
Yeah,
my
yeah.
spatial intelligence is like it's real. It's kind of alarming how bad it is. Like my geography is absolute dog shit. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Makeup memories. I'm like, yeah, I totally passed by that bridge, and my sister's like, Judy, you're doing it again. There was no bridge.
They directionally challenged. I
Yes,
respect that.
directionally challenged. But you know what? There's tools for that. There's GPS. There's Google
Yeah,
Maps.
you don't need it. That's true.
Yeah. I got some help.
Yeah. And that's my one flex I have on my wife because she's a nurse and like an actual hero. She does not know
Amazing.
northeast, south, and west. So that's the one thing
Oh
where I'm
no.
like, oh,
Yeah.
it's just west. She's like, what? I go, yeah, can't do it all, can ya? You're out here saving lives, but I know which way is south. So
Oh, did
know.
you guys grow up in LA? Is that where you guys met and
No,
stuff?
believe it or not. So you're in Colorado, yeah?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Most people I talk to are in LA. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
Florida.
That's right. You're in
So we both
Florida.
kind of set our time around Pacific,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I'm on Eastern and you're in Central.
Yeah, but my Google Calendar is in Pacific. Yeah, so you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're all
totally.
over. We're all over. Yeah,
Yeah.
I go to LA once a year at least, more for work if I can get it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's born and raised here in Florida, and she
Gotcha.
absolutely loves it. Where are you from originally?
LA. I grew up in LA. I was there for the riots.
Ah,
Yeah, it was
look
a
at that.
crazy time. Yeah. But I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm directionally challenged is because like I grew up in
Sure.
K-Town and the turnover of businesses and shops and things, and like
Yeah.
yeah, there's like flagship stores and stuff. It was always rotating and constantly in flux. So I feel like the landmarks I made were kind of like, dissolved at one point and then
Oh,
like I kind of had
sure.
to like and I also like grew up in like a bit of an insulated bubble, so that's probably part of it too. People who grew up in Colorado, where I have been living for the last 2 years, and it's been lovely. They have like an innate sense of direction though, because the mountains are always to the west. So they just go outside, yeah, and they just look,
Oh.
and yeah, it's always this. They always have like a westward compass. So like they have a little bit of a leg up to me, and I'm trying to catch up, but
For now, it'll sink in
for now,
eventually.
yeah, it's yeah. I have a lot of pins on my Google Maps.
You're the reverse transplant. You're from LA and you moved outwards, where
Yeah,
most
yeah,
people
yeah,
are
yeah.
from outwards and move into LA.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep, 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 yep.
Okay, okay. Was Colorado the first time you were cold and you're like, I can do this more often?
No, I'm a lizard, like
Yeah,
I think maybe my body was evolving to do VO before I knew I was ever gonna do VO. Because
sure.
being in this hot box, like, is basically a little sauna, a little humid square
Yeah.
is it can be torturous, but I think I acclimate pretty quickly to the heat. And
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
but I get cold like I it's my temperature regulation is again one of the things I'm not good at. So there's another one for the books. Uh, and winter here has been, yeah, seasons. What? Like
You
it's
get those.
crazy. Yeah, yeah. What? There's cold stuff falling from the sky, and everyone's just still driving. It like makes no sense. I mean, slowly I'm getting used to it, but yeah, it's weird because in LA, they say that there are four seasons. There's a summer, fall, fire, and pilot season.
Oh. Checks out.
Yep, yep, yep. So it's a whole different set of seasons here. It's yeah, but it's quite beautiful. Like it's magical still. I
Yeah.
feel like Calvin and Hobbes. I'm like, oh my god, I
Right?
can. Yeah, it's pretty great.
How can you not be? I've been to Colorado once, and
Mm,
it's one of those places where just waking up, I think seeing mountains does something to our lizard brain of like, oh, what is this experience? And do you find that as well? You're like, something's happening to me, and all I'm doing is looking at geography.
yeah, and they're always snow capped, and it's either very verdant in the summer or it's very very snowy for like 6 months of the goddamn year. It snows all the way up until April here. Like that's
My
kind. I mean, I don't know.
God.
I feel like it's kind of fucked up, but
Yeah, little bit, little bit.
but
It's
like
not right.
spring skiing is a thing, so maybe maybe I'll dip into that. But yeah.
Okay. Have you gone skiing yet?
I am still quite new at it. I snowboarded when I lived
Oh,
in LA, but I switched to skis because everybody here was like, well, at least my little circle of people were all about skiing,
yeah.
uh, and it's different. It's different.
Is it? Is it harder?
Yeah. It's harder in some regards. I think the learning curve is a little less generous.
Gotcha.
But I spent so much time on my ass when I was snowboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got
You're like,
like
this
pretty
feels
bruised
familiar.
up. Um, do you snowboard? Is that
I've
where
always
you come
wanted
from?
to, but I feel like
Uh,
I'm building this in my head. Skis, there's more of a margin of error. You cross your feet and you're
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
impaling
yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah. Yeah, and then when you fall and your like knees splay out, like it's a different
Oh,
type of fall. You know
ow.
what I mean? Yeah, so would you rather spend more time like cold on your butt and like with a bruised bottom, or would you rather like not fall as often but have falls be a little scarier on skis, you
Ooh,
know?
option
Yeah,
A.
yeah.
Option A for sure. At least then I can pretend I'm Tommy from the Power Rangers.
Yeah,
you
between
know?
you and me, like I feel like
Yeah.
I had more immediate fun snowboarding.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've found the fun skiing yet. I've only been a few times. Like to be fair,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm not the anyone to be speaking on this, but yeah, I'll give it another chance. But then I might switch back to snowboarding. 'Cause,
Yeah. I
yeah,
respect it. You know,
we'll see, we'll
and
see.
snowboarding's cooler. Let's just be honest. When you're
I
looking at
mean,
someone
like.
skiing, you're like, all right, I mean, you're fast, cool, but snowboard is like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I used to longboard in college,
Of
so
course.
so
Not
that kind
surprised.
of like that feels like more like there's more muscle memory there. Even though
Yeah.
everyone says like skis are more natural, you're facing forward, you've been walking forward your entire life. They they tell me that shit, and I'm like, yeah, but like, when
I
I
hear what you're
suck.
saying, but you're just justifying trying to look like this.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it is like a little classier or whatever, but I mean,
Are we classy people, Judy? We went to a burlesque show, all right?
uh,
We're a different breed.
yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah,
saying. We had more fun.
yeah.
We had more
We
fun.
have fun. We have a good time,
Yeah. That's what I'm
whether
saying.
on snowboards or skis.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
yeah.
But also, I feel like I've just made an enemy of every skier ever, and I'm
Oh
okay with it. I'm
no,
okay with it.
you've lost a bit of your audience there.
Yeah. Audience, what is that? What do you mean?
Stop.
The one time I was in Colorado, I was in Monument, somewhere near like Colorado Springs. I went to the Garden of the
Okay.
Gods.
Oh, I haven't been yet. Yeah, I hear it's
Oh,
wonderful.
it's another world. It's a different planet. You're like, how did
I need to
this
go.
happen? It's wild. Yeah, go there.
Yeah, I hear it's amazing. Yeah.
Man.
One thing I did that was really cool recently, because I haven't been to the Garden of Gods and I can't speak to it, although I hear
Sure.
amazing things about
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
is there's a meow wolf in Denver. Have you
What?
ever heard of meow wolf?
That sounds like a made-up creature.
It's amazing. It's like this, basically this. It's an art installation that they like created into this structure. So it's like every
Oh.
square foot, every inch of wall and column and flooring you see is art. And like, yeah,
Oh.
it's really beautiful. The one here, the theme is the convergence. It's like a train station or an airport for a few different types of alien civilizations. So
What?
yeah, it's freaking cool, right?
Yeah.
And they have I think it started in Santa Fe. Don't quote me on this. I think the first one was in Santa Fe,
Okay.
and it looks like a house, but like there's all these hidden elements, and then like it's actually multiple stories or something. I haven't been to that one,
Cool.
but like you walk into like the refrigerator and it's a different room, or like you lift up the couch and there's a ladder down to a different room, like stuff like that. So I think that's how it
Yeah.
started. But the one here is amazing. It's gigantic. And recently I went to my first music show there, because they have a venue on the side, and it looked like a neon
Dude.
church inside. Yeah, every wall was covered in projections. It was so
Dude.
cool. Yeah, and the first two acts played on the stage, like the neon church kind of like looking thing. And then the headliner came out and he played in the middle of the crowd. There was a podium in the
Oh.
middle of the crowd. So I was kind of hanging on the rail, kind of a little, a little bit of distance from the main stage, thinking that I'd hang back. But when the headliner came out, I was like literally at his feet. I was like, I could not have been closer. And I was like, I don't know if I signed up for this, but I am here for it.
There you go.
Yeah,
Too late
and like,
now.
yeah, and the crowd all around him was facing inward, so we were all dancing with each other. It was just like a really
Yeah.
great, like wow, what an experience. So that was just like this past weekend, which is why I'm like still,
Oh,
like
get it.
I'm still
Ride that
dealing with
high,
it.
pal.
But yeah, it was
That's what life's
so
about.
cool. It was awesome.
What? That's nuts. So what brought you to Colorado of all places?
I followed a guy out here.
That checks out.
I know, right?
Checks out.
Apparently, a lot of people have a similar story, and
Yeah.
they don't leave. So, so
It's
I
the
don't feel
mountains.
alone in that. Yeah, I don't feel too alone in that. But yeah, we met working in LA. He was the transplant at the time, and then during quarantine, when we both started working from home, which I didn't know up until that point was an option for voiceover and our entire
Sure.
industry, even engineering, like it wasn't. I thought I was going to live and die in LA. I never thought that I could move out. So during quarantine, we were living in a shoebox in Santa Monica and paying, bleeding out rent. So we were like, why do this? Why don't we just, see how long we can stick it out somewhere else? And he's from here, so he brought me over here. And
Gotcha.
yeah. And that didn't
Okay.
work out, but we're
That's
still really
okay.
great friends. Yeah. There's no hard feelings. It's very amicable. And yeah, he's still kind of like my support network. If I have something wrong with my car, I can, call him. If there's
Sure.
inclement weather and I'm like, what do I do about ice on my fucking car? Like yeah, he's there. So yeah, so I do feel supported out here, which is very fortunate.
Yeah,
But yeah,
super
he was the
important.
main reason. Yeah. It was
Wow.
scary, like
I
that letting
bet.
go process. Yeah. Because I don't have family out here,
Oh man, good for you then.
Yeah.
The bravery it takes to do that?
Yeah,
Come
right? It's
on.
kind of scary.
Kind of, yeah,
But
a little.
but I'm gonna try and see if I can make it work though. I'm gonna try
I
and
believe
see.
in you.
Yeah, we'll see. There are too many good things so far that are different from LA that I don't want to go back to the parking trauma just yet.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Fair,
Yeah.
fair. You don't get neon church concerts,
Yeah, or unless I want to pay like $250, like,
for
yeah.
parking.
Yeah. Yeah. Things are
Gotcha.
more accessible here, it was just one thing that I really do love about here. Like the music scene is just it's always going on. So and like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much going on that it doesn't have to be this like cutthroat competition to like try. Well, it kind of is for the bigger stuff,
Sure.
but it's very different from LA. A lot of things are different. The dating scene is different here. Like it's
Yeah?
weird. Yeah,
A lot more
it's
flannel.
weird. A lot of people holding fish in their Hinge
Yeah.
profiles. Yeah. Yeah, a lot.
Mountains in every single background.
Yeah. There's always a mountain pic without fail.
I respect it.
The hustle.
My God. So you're growing up in LA. What kind of stuff were you into?
Oh man, growing up, I was a pretty weird kid. You look at photos of me when I was
See,
a kid, and I
I
was
knew I
like,
liked you,
yeah,
Judy.
I was a weird one.
Yeah,
So
good.
weirdo.
Good. Who are you talking to?
Yeah. I mean, I have
Yeah.
a special place in my heart for weird kids. That
Ditto.
came out wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Legally speaking.
Yeah, legally speaking,
Adult kids that were weird.
yes.
Yeah,
No,
I got you.
yeah,
Don't worry.
yes, question mark? Anyways, I played games and stuff. I was cool like early on, like in the 90s I was cool. And then somehow I like got trapped in this bubble of taekwondo. I'm a second degree
Oh,
black
hell
belt in
yeah.
taekwondo, but like that was a big
Dude.
part of my life. Thank you.
Yeah.
Church, I was very Catholic back then. I
Uh-huh.
think mainly because I was part of the church band and it was like a musical
There you
kind of
go.
like,
Been there. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
That's where you cut your teeth.
Yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
It's where a lot of it grows, and
Yeah.
I do appreciate that about religion. There's a lot of things about institutionalized religion I don't appreciate, and
Facts.
I have yeah,
Same.
same, and I have walked away from my religion, but
Mhm.
that was a big part of my life growing up. And then there's like Korean school, and my parents forbade me and my sister from speaking English in the house because they wanted to preserve
Oh,
yeah, my
that's
my
kind of
my
cool.
facilities. Sure, but also my dad was a terrible and is a terrible person. I haven't seen
Ah,
him in I think 12 years. I've spoken to him in
good for
12
you.
years. Yeah, no contact, you know what I mean? Very toxic
Right
personality,
on.
very abusive. So, that was a big part of my childhood. I don't want to pretend that my childhood was all like terrible because there is a normalcy to abuse, there's a normalcy to violence, and
True.
so
Mm-hmm.
I did make the most of it, and I feel like I came out like well adjusted, me and my sister both, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud of us. um but yeah, that my like childhood me, I don't know, I couldn't have imagined getting to where I am now, it's like
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
That it makes you adaptable, I've found.
Yeah.
I've learned meeting new people, and like when there's a connection that's under the surface of people cut from the same cloth, right? And I found that a lot of it is just having been through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Because if you have someone who's never struggled and who hasn't had to face like real adversity, there is this sort of miscommunication there of like, oh, okay, we can only go this far as connection goes. But somebody else is like, same scars. Cool.
Well, we kind of
Look
get
at
it. Yeah. At the same
that. Yeah.
time, I do see a lot of like good good families, like good parents out here, that like, I feel like in LA, like a lot of my friends came from broken homes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Maybe it was like, the people that I gravitated towards, because I think there was a little bit of a martyrdom, wanting to heal each other, like, trauma
Sure.
bonding and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
But here I see like a lot of happy older couples, and I'm like, what is that like? Like, what kind of life do you live? Like,
Right.
and it's kind of
How?
gorgeous, but yeah. One thing that I don't know how to cope with, and I'm a little afraid of on the horizon, is dealing with grief.
Oh, yeah. I'm there with you.
Yeah.
Lots. Uh-huh.
I have a lot of friends who have dealt with it and, are okay now, but I know that it's something that I haven't, and like, truly close to my heart, and like,
Sure.
my immediate family. So um, that's a trial that when that happens, I know that it will, I can't say that I understand when somebody is going through something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So I feel, from both angles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's being a person's hard, isn't it? Like,
It's
really,
so
when you think
fucking
about
hard.
it. I think about that all the time. Like,
It's very
it's really
rewarding,
tough.
but
Yeah. It's like I'd rather be a person than not, I suppose, but oof, this difficulty level's cranked way more than I put it. You
uh,
second degree black belt. Okay, listen.
yes.
What is the difference between first and second from a testing standpoint?
Oh my God, this was like a long time ago. I don't remember.
You
All I
don't
know is
remember?
that all I know is that it was a harder test. There was some sparring involved. There was a lot of elements. There was forms, and yeah, and there was a lot of money involved. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
that's
sure.
martial arts ain't cheap.
Facts.
Like,
Facts.
yeah.
Especially in LA, I imagine.
And I did not grow up wealthy or even middle class, I would say. So like,
Ditto.
this was like a big, this was a deliberate decision on my mom's part to be like, we're going to invest in this, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, investment return, second degree. Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty
Pretty
good,
good.
pretty good. I got a card when I got my second degree. I was like, I'm legally a weapon. I have no idea where the card
Registered
went.
hands.
I've lost it, I think. It's somewhere in the archive, but
Yeah. It's that conditioned reflex response. I bet you could still kick pretty good.
well, I
I know
mean, I
Taekwondo.
try to keep, sharp. I competed at UCLA, like did it
Oh,
all the way through
dude.
college. Yeah, and then, I tried to do more practical stuff afterwards, like because it's a very performative sport. It's not really,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, if you, there's no
Mhm.
when you're down on the ground, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that kind of thing is what you want to know,
Yeah.
not necessarily Taekwondo.
Yeah.
I understand the impracticalities of
Yes.
Taekwondo. I love the sport, but it is a sport.
There's a couple blind spots. Just a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
There's
get
no
it.
room for flashy kicks in a bathroom, when you're like, so like, yeah. So, I did Krav Maga for a couple of years, and
Get it.
that was fun. But my shoulders started getting really big, and I was like, oh, my jackets aren't fitting. Like, I can't be doing
No.
this.
What's wrong?
Yeah.
Judy.
guys. Yeah, I did kickboxing for a little bit, and yeah, I mean, I'm trying to stay on it, but at the same time, yeah,
The people around you are too nice. You just got to start going to tough neighborhoods, pick fights.
now that you're exactly right. Now that I don't have to deal with like road rage as much anymore, like I have less violence, like just boiling over. It's crazy.
Sure. But if anyone decides to come at you, Judy, just know they're getting a foot to the head.
No,
Gotta throw that
man.
warning out.
No, that's the thing, though. That's the thing. No, you just do as much damage as you need to run. Honestly,
Yeah.
like, you don't want to mess with guns. Like, there's no time
Facts.
or risk for that. You know what I mean? Like, just get safe. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I had a sensei one time that said the greatest technique against a gun is cooperation.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I like this guy a lot.
This
So,
is real
here's
leather,
how to
by the
grab
way.
it.
So this is a good wallet, so you can take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Genuine leather isn't actually genuine leather, so you know.
Just so you know, this one is. Yeah.
Yeah. Grab my wrist. See what happens. Oh, God.
Oh,
So
man.
when did music start then? Because I imagine it's around this time,
Oh.
because college was for music, if I remember correctly.
I went back to school for college. Actually, my story is pretty convoluted.
Yeah,
What?
actually, on that, I'm remembering things now. So you're doing martial arts, you're learning to hurt people, and then you end up pre-med? You're like, I guess I'll
Yes,
fix them when I'm
yes.
done with them? How did this How? Why? Why?
No, I mean it it wasn't the traditional what you think of like, oh, my parents tried to, force me. It was actually my mom, bless her, because I love her so much. She kind of knew that it wasn't right for me, and she was like, Judy, I don't know if this if
Just
you
see what
really want
happens.
this. But at the time, I was at UCLA undergrad feeling pretty invincible. And I was like, I just want to really help people or whatever. And then eventually I came to the realization that I didn't want anyone's lives on my hands. So I
Fair,
pivoted
fair.
I kind of like switched directions to be pre-dentistry. And
Oh,
then, yeah, I was like, maybe I can deal with teeth. I can deal with teeth.
yeah.
Maybe just, do that a couple days a week, make music the rest of the days a week. A very impractical idea of what this was going to look like.
I will use
Um,
both sides of my brain at the same time.
yeah. Oh, really love life. And my mom, being who she is, she was like, maybe you should try working at a few dental offices first. So post graduation, I worked at a few dental offices and I realized that, wow, this is not for me,
Yeah.
Things were pretty dark in other regards of my life at the time too. This was right about when a pretty big incident occurred with my dad, which caused the no contact to
Sure.
happen and stuff. And so it was kind of a dark time. But once I came out of that, I went back to UCLA for independent music production, and then that's kind of when I started to study audio recording
Ah.
theory and go on to like my post production pathway. But music has always been a part of my life. I grew up, and doesn't really count, but I grew up with a karaoke machine, so it was
That
and
totally counts.
a
Come on.
robust one. I had like a professional karaoke machine at home. It was
Yeah.
dope. Um,
Get it.
yeah, and my dad rigged like the cassette player to like record us, so like we would record. I've been
Dude,
recording myself since I was a kid. Yeah.
look at that.
I
Destined.
know. It's kind of crazy to think about now. But yeah, church was really where I started to kind of, learn the guitar and all that.
Sure.
And then I was in orchestra in middle school with the violin, which I haven't touched in like
Dude.
20 years. But but once upon
Guitar's
a time,
kind of
I was
violin,
second chair. Yeah.
Just get a bow, and you can. I've seen people play guitars with tiny bows. It's
It's
possible.
pretty amazing what people can
Yeah.
do with instruments. That truly I feel like is a different part of my brain.
Yeah.
I really do feel like that. And like playing an instrument and singing too is like, yeah, I feel like that.
Oh,
I feel like that honestly was what prepared me for VO. I really
really?
do.
How come?
Yeah, because I could play the guitar, rhythm guitar, finger picking, whatever it is that I'm doing, and then
Mhm.
adjust my singing without thinking about the other parts of, the instrument that I'm playing. And so like,
Oh.
yeah, the vocal control that comes with being able to play an instrument as well, but take direction in both, I feel like that kind of like made some neural pathways that allowed
Yeah.
me, yeah, to take direction and like, and a lot of directors say like a musical ear or a musical background is incredibly useful in VO for intonations and like, inflections and that kind of thing. But I honestly feel like that just the separation of like the like the working memory during that time was really like what primed me the most. Yeah.
Okay. So guitar, was that something somebody gave you, or something you're like, I want to learn guitar?
I think it happened it with a teacher. There was a teacher that had like a little music club, and I think we had guitars to try out and stuff. And then very soon I had my own guitar, very not a crazy one or
Sure.
anything. It was like a nylon classical guitar, a
Six
beginner
strings. I got
guitar.
it.
Yeah, yeah, totally 6 strings. Um, uh, and then from there, I think I took that over to church, and then yeah, I think that's actually where it started. Was school, not church. I feel like I got really fortunate with school. I grew up on the east side, like in K-Town, but I went to
Mhm.
school on the west side always. I always went to like, the whitest
Ah,
schools. Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
A place
I
with
don't know
funding.
how. Yeah, exactly. With magnet programs and stuff. I took
Yeah.
the bus. Like, yes. I feel really lucky. I don't know how my immigrant mother managed that. She still doesn't speak English.
Because she's a superhero. That's how.
I don't know how she did it. But she got me to like, she got me and my sister to like the best schools. Like, I ended up at UCLA. Like, I don't know how she did it. Really, really commendable because yeah, that must be a network now that I think about it. But
Right? Something's happening.
But another interesting about that, real quick tangent, is that
No,
like
I have ADD, Judy. Let's dance. All right?
let's dance.
I'm here for
Um,
it.
Another interesting thing about that is that like as it having been from like an immigrant family, like I noticed, especially because she didn't really make an effort, or she didn't really get a chance, or I don't know what her reasoning is, but she didn't really assimilate, you know what I mean? So she kind of kept tradition and culture and everything that she brought over from the 80s and 90s, and prior to that she brought over here, and then she kind of like built a time capsule here with
Oh,
like-minded
cool.
people and like-minded immigrants. That, well, it's cool in some regards.
Cool for her.
Cool for her, yeah, very comfortable for her. But like,
Yeah.
meanwhile, Korea is progressing, getting more, like it's changing, it's getting high tech, and America is changing and getting high tech, and she
Ah,
is kind of like in her time capsule here, kind of able to distance herself from both of those
gotcha.
kinds of, yeah. So like, yeah, so they're almost, well, my parents, I guess I can only speak to my parents, but my parents are almost more traditional than parents in of my age group in Korea. So it's like kind of a weird,
Oh, yeah.
like,
She like stopped in time and just moved it over, but still is in that time.
exactly, and
Huh.
found each other and stayed, and well, my mom in particular has a very like big fear of the outside world, because she's getting bad news from two countries,
Oh,
like
yeah,
like,
for sure.
yeah. So yeah, it's rough. It's a rough world out there from her perspective, and I can't blame her. But yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon that I have noticed with my family, at least. I can only speak to that, but yeah.
I mean, she figured it out though. Look at you.
She's great. Yeah, I love her so much. She the best.
So you're playing music. I'm like I'm tracking this in my head now.
Oh, okay,
You're
yeah.
playing music, you're cutting your teeth, and then you go to school for pre-med and then dentistry and then go back for music. Was the reason to go back for music from like a musical standpoint or from like an audio production standpoint so you could kind of
Mm.
record yourself? You see what I'm saying?
It was a bit of both. It was a bit of
Yeah.
both. I mean, nobody goes into music being like, "I wanna record other people," you know?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
"I wanna make other
Fair.
people's music." So, there's a little bit in the beginning. If it eventually becomes that, if at a certain level of professionalism, you know what I mean? Like, it has to. Unless you're, like, one of the people who really broke through and, like, can even make can make their own brand, like Taylor Swift,
Hmm.
Katy Perry, you know what I mean? Like, they are their own persona. But behind the scenes, there's a bunch of people working on their music, and those are
Right.
the professionals. Like, yeah. Anyways, all this. I'm not, you know. But that wasn't like the reason I went into it, is to like work on other people's music. I did want to produce and make my own music from the ground up, and I did, and that's when I realized that like it was taking so long, and I would just get wrapped up in in the writing process. I would start mixing, and then in the mixing process I would go back and change my writing, and I would just get stuck in this loop.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
because it's my work, and it's so amorphous that like I have too much control over it. No bounds, no restrictions.
Uh-huh.
So I did do some of that, and that's when I realized that like I would rather take the parts of the process that I am not the best at, like mastering, like kind of like the tail end of the process, and give it to somebody, take my money, and give it to somebody who's really fucking good at it, Like I
Yeah,
realized that like
totally.
that's the better way to do things. And then so I realized in that journey that like that is highly respectable to be that person that's really specialized in their field,
Yeah.
And then my mindset kind of changed, and and yeah, but that was very gradual though.
Huh. That's
Mhm.
kind of cool actually, that you're trying to do both and then you realize on the back end you're like, "Oh, this is actually also a thing." Did it come
Yeah.
naturally to you or did you have to kind of nail it in to be like, "Oh, this is how production works?"
Oh no, production is very technical. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of things you have to do a certain way in order to make it sound the way that you hear it in your head. You know what I mean? Without it
Sure.
sounding empty. Like there's all these different types of hardware, software, everything you need. So
Mhm.
it was a lot. It was a lot to learn, and it was really fun. But my journey in music, like right after I finished schooling for independent music production, I got an internship at recording studios.
Nice.
And it was like while I was there, it was like very predominantly rap and hip hop. So like,
Sure.
there was
Checks out.
a lot of that being recorded there. A lot of those shifts are what I was on, cleaning up after, and stuff like that. So, that was a fun process, but also super body breaking. The hours were crazy. I was
Intern
good
hours.
at closing. Oh my God. Well, I worked my way up to assistant engineer and and whatnot, but the hours were insane. I was good at closing, so they kept making me close.
Oh no.
Yeah, they were like
You shone
punishing
too
me.
bright.
Yeah, for being a good janitor essentially. So like, yeah, it was rough, but
You can clean up studios and audio. Wink.
oh my God, I could sweep roaches off the floor. Like, roaches as in like, blunt roaches, not
Yeah, yeah.
insects. Um, but yeah, I remember there was one time I was working at this music studio, right? And there was at the time, lean was a really big thing, scissor or whatever, the double
Oh yeah,
strength rubber
yeah.
cups,
The
like, right?
lane. I get it.
Yeah, cough syrup. Yeah. It was like such a big thing at the time. It was very trendy back then. It was a while ago. Um,
Uh-huh.
and there was one shift where this producer had stayed overnight, and we were like, when the fuck is he gonna go home? He's not gonna go home. He's passed out. Okay, fine. And then I think like 6 o'clock or something rolls around, and I'm like, this guy has to get up. Like, he's got to get up. Like, I gotta go home. Like, this is not okay. So I go over and I try and like wake him up, and he's not responding. And I was like,
Oh
oh
no.
my God, there's lead everywhere. There's like, there's drugs. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot on my shift. So I
Right.
slapped him awake, and I was like, not on my shift. And he woke up and he went home and he was fine. But oh my God, I think that was one of the moments I realized that like, I gotta get out of here. Like, yeah, I can't. This is not for me.
If there's gonna be a line, that's a pretty good one.
Right? A wake up call. Literally, like.
Right. There's no sunglasses to put on him to pretend.
Oh, God. That was so scary.
Oh
That
my
was a
God.
scary night. And I was the only staff member there. I was the only one there. And I was like,
Oh no.
this is going to be on me. Like,
Right. This is a crime scene.
exactly. My fingerprints are all over.
No. You slap him twice and then you start bringing out wipes to like get rid of everything you've touched. Just as suspicious.
God.
There's no fingerprints from Judy here.
Wait, doesn't she work here?
Yeah.
Where is she?
God.
Oh, wow.
How long
Yeah,
did you do that before you like ended up in a pipeline doing production?
I think it was like the whole time I was at that music studio, I was never really like the term assistant engineer was like very loose. I was like setting up and breaking
Sure.
down, but like I wasn't really doing
Gotcha.
any of the tracking. I wasn't really like doing any of that. So and that's why I left, because I was like, I'm not growing here. I've been here like a while. It was like maybe like 2 years, I think. And also a bunch of music studios at the time were getting sued. And on my way out, I know that studio was getting sued as well. And I wasn't part of it. I don't know what happened to it, but
Good for you.
yeah, some questionable labor practices, you know what I mean? But I was able to somehow miraculously find dialogue and voiceover in video games as an avenue, and I never looked back. I mean, I love music, and I continue to make my own music for when I have the time and disposable income. But
Yeah.
but yeah, dialogue in VO was like, wow, this is a worlds apart. I was just all about it, and I was just like, I tunneled in. I just wanted to be there for that. And I was like, you know what? At that point, I had kind of like folded my creative endeavors. I was like, I think tech is the way to go. I have more respect for like these specialized fields, and also I realized that was probably more of a chance of success, as opposed to trying to make it as an individual artist, which is very difficult in LA. So yeah, stars have to align for you. You have to meet the right people.
Facts.
You have to be super hot, like.
It's a whole. There's a million things.
Yeah,
It's like nobody is self-made. That person has
exactly.
20 people behind them. Come on now. Yeah.
And talent is not the barometer for which success,
Correct.
Yeah. It's not at all. So, unfortunately, at the time, I kind of folded my creative endeavors, decided to go full tech, full engineering, full recording, and then I did that, at that recording studio for years, moved my way up from assistant engineer to house engineer to lead engineer for the last year
Dude.
I was there. Yeah. And so I think when I made like when the route for voiceover like opened up for me,
Yeah.
I had all this creative energy that I had folded like have a new
Ah.
avenue. So like it was very fulfilling for me, and and in hindsight I see why I took to it as much as I did and I wanted it as much as I did, but I didn't know that that was even a possibility until, much later on in my like recording career. So yeah.
That's pretty cool. You're doing this tech stuff, and obviously you have this creative side to yourself. So when acting comes up, I mean, there's nothing more creative
Yeah.
than acting.
Yeah, 100%. I never had the audacity to think
Yeah.
as, as a minority in LA
Sure.
that like I was going to be able to be an actor, like I didn't think that that was an option for me.
What changed? Do you remember? Like, what was the thing that you're like, oh,
Well, an opportunity, that
yeah,
I couldn't turn down, and I'm still to this day a little bit uncomfortable in front of cameras. I'm not really like, I'm not like a natural in front of a camera.
yeah.
But but behind a mic, you know what I mean? Like I've been doing that since like since I was a
Since
kid
karaoke
recording
days.
myself. Yeah, exactly. So like, I felt free and I didn't have to worry about what I looked like or like my too expressive face, any of that kind of other stuff. So
Yeah.
so I didn't know that I could do it until the opportunity came to try it. And then from there I started engineering for VO classes for Charlie Adler and Ginny McSwain.
Oh, Charlie Adler. I just took his
My
workshop a
God.
couple weeks ago.
Oh.
It will change the way you see the world.
Yes, exactly. And I was an engineer recording everybody being like, "Wow, I this is amazing." You know what I mean? So I kind of like osmosis as much of it as I could starting from that point on, and then started taking workshops and classes myself, and then trying to, like constantly trying to do better, and to this day I don't think that there is a ceiling. So I'm still taking classes, I'm taking classes at the Denver Center for Performing Arts here cuz it's
Cool.
here and it's awesome,
Why
and
not?
apparently there's a theater scene that I have no idea what is like. So, so I'm just like trying to get more physical with my acting, trying to get a little bit more comfortable in front of a camera. Like I said, there's no ceiling. So just like
Yeah.
constantly carving away and trying to get better, That started very, I think, pretty early once I realized that like this is an opportunity. I never stopped doing that. So yeah.
Wow. Do you remember your first VO gig that you booked?
I do, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't a booking. See, this is what I mean by an opportunity.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm in.
I was literally in the right place at the right time.
That's what it takes, man. So
Yeah,
much luck.
right? Yeah, that's fucking entertainment for you.
Uh-huh.
But I think I was assistant engineering at the time. That's how yeah, long ago it was. And this was at the dialogue recording studio that I was talking about earlier. And I was assistant engineering, and then there was an engineer, and then this project, I don't know if I can name it because I don't know if that they want to be
Sure.
be known for this, but it was a
Yeah.
small
The thing.
indie it was a small indie non-union game, and
Uh-huh.
they had a few atmospheric roles left over that they hadn't given to actors, and they were like, why don't we just throw Judy in the booth? I know that she is musical. So
Yeah.
they threw me in there, and I had an amazing time. And the voice director for that session ended up being the one to I mean, I love her. I became very close friends with her. At least I like to think so. Of course we all like to think so.
Yeah.
But I adore her, and she actually gave me the chance to submit an audition for a role that changed my life later down the line. So that role
Oh.
was for Black Ops 4. That was Specialist Seraph. Yeah, in Call
Uh-huh.
of Duty Black Ops 4.
Yeah. I
And
may be familiar.
and familiar. Yeah. And it was an Asian character,
Uh-huh.
and she was young, and she was badass. I was like, I want to
Really
submit. Let me
cool.
submit. Yeah, fucking cool. So I didn't really know that she, what character she was or anything. I only had seen like a very vague breakdown, but I was like, this sounds like something I want to do.
Yeah.
So I submitted, and I got it. And
Yeah, you did.
yeah, and that I feel like if I didn't have that first crazy coincidental serendipitous opportunity, like this would not have panned out, you know?
Yeah?
But somehow, like, both of those things happened. And then from that point on, I got Taft Hartley'd into the union. I got
Amazing.
an agent. Yeah. And
Get
then,
it.
after that, it was all submissions. And then, I
Uh-huh.
nail a few and I get some offers and it's fucking awesome,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So that's kind
Wow.
of how that went down. Yeah.
That's so
Total
cool.
luck, really.
Yeah. Was it different than you expected? Because it's one thing to want to do something, it's another to actually do it.
Well, at that point, I had spent so many thousands of hours in session, assistant engineering and engineering, that like I knew, like, and even like engineering for Charlie Adler's class, I was like, there are very common mistakes that people make in the booth, taking things personally or not realizing that direction is not criticism, all those things, like not
I
being
wrote that
big
down.
enough. Yeah. Like classic things. And like, because I had osmosis so much without even like intending to, by engineering and being, like I was talking about earlier, like being the person to intuitively lower the gain when you know that they're going to do an explosive pass, like kind of like having like the feel for that as well, like and getting to record audio on motion capture stages, like
Yeah.
stages around town, like all of that, like I think really did, when I got into the booth, it created an environment where I knew if things were going wrong, I could identify,
Sure.
and I could identify, and I could see how people stand out from the crowd, and it's just like what mistakes never to do, like what things never to say to a voice director, just stuff like that. Like I've just seen the other side of the glass for so long that like
Yeah.
yeah, I felt good about it,
What a cool way to get an education.
right?
Like when you think about that, like
It's like a master class.
there's a million ways to do this stuff, but like, yeah, you're literally getting an education while
Yeah.
you're working for another thing. Like that's so cool.
I got paid, man. I was getting
I
paid for
know.
that. I mean, like, not
Yeah.
much, to be fair. Like, one of
Right.
my gripes about tech is that it just doesn't pay like you would
Yeah.
think, right? Because it's so essential. But really, like, I mean, obviously, I have no control over how much businesses pay their employees. But like,
Uh-huh.
oh man, it really bums me out to think that like, yeah, acting is
Mm-hmm.
so much more lucrative, and I didn't expect that. I thought I was gonna take a hit, but like,
Yeah.
man, that really they deserve more. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the outward face. I had a mentor who was an audio engineer, and he told me one time, he said the worst part about it is you only get recognition when something's wrong. Like if you do it
Yeah.
right, nobody knows anything, and it's like, okay, cool. But if something's wrong, you're the first person they're coming to. I was like,
Right.
ah, dude, that sucks.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
yeah,
true.
the underappreciated.
Yeah, it's pretty thankless most times.
Yeah.
But especially for like a vendor type situation where you're working on a game and you're not part of the development team, you're part of this recording VO process. Like it's kind of like
Yeah.
a little bit separate from their audio team who's like working on the music, the sound effects, and all that other good stuff. So like, yeah, there is a little bit of a estrangement there in that regard. But I will say one thing I loved about working in video games as just like a whole is that 90% of the people I met, like working as an engineer or as an actor even, have been so cool.
Oh,
They're just
right.
so cool. Yeah, video game people are dope.
It's its own ecosystem.
Yeah.
That party that we met at, I think about all the
Yeah.
time because I come from on camera, which is a very
Mhm.
different arena.
I would like to
And so
hear about
like
that. Yeah.
I'll tell you when we're done. It sucks.
Oh man,
Where
that's what I
VO is
hear.
like everyone is so cool and genuinely care about each other. And I mean,
Mhm.
it probably comes from they're all incredible. So it's like they have nothing to prove because come on, that's Yuri Lowenthal. Like, I get it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
You
he doesn't
know,
have to
it's just
try. He just oozes cool. Yeah.
God, that guy. I was just texting him before we started talking. He says hello, by the way. He
Oh,
told
I
me
love
to tell you.
him. Oh my
Yes.
god, tell him hello for
That
me. He's
guy.
so incredible. Oh
Though he's
man.
the worst, you know? Like, how does that guy exist? How are you real?
I know. How are you so awesome?
I was his +1 to
Yeah.
that party.
Oh
That's how
yeah,
I got
that's
in.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. I
What is
remember.
the voiceover community is this like singular ecosystem where everybody knows everyone and they have this, they've been working on it forever. So there's this rapport and they're so inclusive
Mhm.
and just like, I had
Yeah,
Chip on 2 episodes ago
that's
before
right.
yours
Yeah.
dropped. And Chip, Sissy, and I closed Idle Hour. We're there at that party till like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, I've never met
Amazing.
these people before. But to feel included,
Amazing.
it's just, how's it real,
Yeah.
Judy?
Yeah.
How?
It really does blow my mind. And like the way that the VO community celebrates each other's success
Yes.
is like
Yes.
I really just want to like model my life after that, you know? Like
Same,
it's
same.
just so beautiful.
It is. When you did Seraph, was it VO? Was it PCAP or
It was VO. It was my role
wow?
was strictly
Yeah,
VO, yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, PCAP would have been cool too, but I don't think I would have been
Yeah.
prepared for that. I don't think I was in any way, shape, or form ready for that. So, I mean, now might be a little different story, you know, but
Yeah.
back then, I think I was not in a place to be able to offer that kind of performance. So,
I mean, you still killed it though. And VO is its
thank
own.
you.
You have to channel all of that through your voice, which I found to be way harder. I mean, just you don't have as many tools at your disposal physically, you know? VO
Mm-hmm.
astounds me. And just how?
Yeah.
Just
And I got
amazing.
so lucky watching, like, I'm telling you, like the cream of the crop do their
Yeah.
thing, like Nolan North, Fred Tatasciore, like, Greg Griffin, like everybody, like Roger Craig Smith. I could go on. Like, I just got to record them. Tom Kenny, I got to record them as an engineer and be in sync with where they were going to go in terms of levels and like it's a very like singular kind of job to engineer too, like it's very like horse blinders, and I think that's why I really enjoyed it while I did. um but yeah, I got to watch them and see what they could express, the same lines that like that I'm seeing on the page, and it's just brought to life, and it's just like in a way that I couldn't have anticipated,
Yeah.
like, and it surprises everyone in the room. They're like, oh, I didn't think of that read, but that read is dope and we're using it, like
Yeah.
like like that would happen all the time with like the greatest, and I was privy to watch and learn from that, and like I
Yeah.
can't imagine having to do this without that. Like it must be hard for everybody
Right.
else.
Different journeys, Judy. Different journeys.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't come from like a theater background, you know what I mean? I came from music and tech and pre-med, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
this was
dentistry.
this was my education. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
there's a million ways to do it. A million ways. How cool was it being a senator in the Old Republic? I mean, you want to talk about
Oh
inhabiting a
man.
galaxy. Come on.
That team is so amazing. Like talking about like how cool some developers can be. Like I visited them in Austin because I loved them. So I traveled to Austin once I became a freelance, once I wasn't beholden
Yeah, of
to a
course.
full-time engineering
Untethered.
schedule anymore. But I visited their headquarters, the BioWare headquarters in Austin, because God, those guys are just like, they're so amazing. They're so kind, so talented, and like their scripts were really interesting too because they have a lot of different player character archetypes. So
Oh yeah.
so they're using the same exact lines, or maybe not the same. They're adjusted to they're
Totally.
definitely
To fit
adjusted.
the story.
But
We're branch.
yeah,
Hmm.
and the whether or not you're on the dark side or the light side, whatever.
Uh-huh.
So like they definitely have adjustments and unique things about them, but like base storylines were like they have to follow. So
Yeah.
we would have some identical lines read by like 7 or 8 actors, done 7 or 8 different ways, and like
What?
yeah, it was so cool to like to be like doing dialogue editorial for that, and like and hearing everyone's different take on the same line, um
Yeah.
and seeing how like some actors really needed to break down the context to get there, and some actors like Nolan North, he sees a line, he knows
Boom.
exactly like the last 7 or 8 hours of gameplay that led to that line. Like it's crazy.
Right.
Yeah. So like yeah, just being able to like spot what everyone brings to the same line, like it's just it was so cool. Such a cool project. I love those guys. Long live that game. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool. And I mean that's one of those like historical things where like this is forever. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
that's really neat. Was
Yeah.
it how cool was it coming back for Warzone as Seraph?
Oh man, that was really, really cool. I didn't expect, I mean, like, I don't like to have expectations with my roles, you know?
Smart.
Some roles are one-offs, some roles are, you know, like a couple sessions over the course of a few months and then it's done. And then some roles are like for years and I don't know what it's going to be when I go in. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't
I
want
know.
to like
Yeah.
get too attached because I have attachment issues because of I grew
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Um,
Relatable.
yeah, relatable. So I didn't, you know, I thought Seraph was done at that point, and then when they brought her back, I was like, oh my god, freaking awesome! And it was dope, and it was surprisingly easy to lock back in, just because I'd spent so many hours doing, you know, doing that voice and that character. So it was like riding a bike. I was kind of surprised because that was like the first time I had like folded that and thought I was done, and then came back to it, you know,
Right.
as opposed to a project that's ongoing and you're like, okay, let me listen, make sure I'm in the same place, you know, like stuff like that. I mean, although there was of course a listen to reference workflow where it's like make sure that, you know, we're not veering too far off.
Uh-huh.
But tonally it was very different too. It was a more out there kind of version of Sarah for Warzone, you know, and for the others. So like yeah, less tucked in, less like tactical and dark, you know. So
Less cutting your arm off. You're like, we already did that.
yeah, my arm's already gone. What do you want, the other one? You know?
Yeah. That's neat. And I know you got to also play Kim Young
Yeah.
in that game. So you kind of like passed the baton
Yeah.
because you got to play Kim Young in more than one thing too. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. And I also got to do, yeah, Kim Taeyong, and then also K Song as well in Cold
Yes.
War. Yeah, so they were all pretty different actually. And I think there was more language specific stuff because I'm Korean and I speak Korean, and so
Yeah.
Kim Taeyong and K Song, like they had a lot of Korean like sprinkled in and stuff.
So
So that
cool.
was, yeah, that was a dream come true, you know, to be like
Yeah.
to be represented on in such a huge massive way like that. So that was really cool.
Those are the kind of jobs when you're like bringing more into it and like your language. And it's like, I
Yeah.
love it. I love looking at steps of like, you had to have been able to do the things that you did at the time that the opportunity arose.
Right.
And then you get to bring yourself to it,
Right.
which brings this extra level of depth to the character. I mean, look at this, Judy. What's happening? Dude.
But honestly, Call of Duty is like one of like I remember it very fondly because yeah, the efforts for Call of Duty are
Oh, yeah.
so much fun, you know, and I know that there are some Call of Duty devs that are a little bit less conscious of vocal stress than others, you know, but
Sure.
luckily the
Mhm.
teams that I worked with were very conscious and were
Oh,
very
cool.
aware. Yeah, and they were very you know, thoughtful in that way, because you know the voice director she's amazing, like I said, and she's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And yeah, Amanda Wyatt is her name, and she is just
Legend.
yeah,
Legend.
she's just magical. So much fun, so knowledgeable, so like what's the word for it? Like she's just so deliberate in her undertakings, but also very flexible, adaptable, you know, like just I don't know how she does it. Like she just meshes both worlds of like, yes, this is how we need to do it, but of course we're going to do it your way. But of course this is the result we're going to get. You know, like
Sure.
it's just yeah, she's just so boss. Anyways, yeah, one of my favorite things about recording for Call of Duty was all the efforts. There's just so many different types of ways to die. It's like 1,000 ways to die. You know? One of my
Yeah.
favorites was getting run over by a car and then getting run over by both axles. So it's like yeah, there's the impact sound and then there's the as you get like and like yeah, one of my favorites. Yeah. And I remember when I was recording like the death by fire efforts, which is always what we do last. We always
Oh,
leave
yeah.
that for last because that
You gotta
is
go for
as
that.
you know, like you gotta, you know, like
You are
it's
screaming in
you're
levels.
screaming. Yeah, you're screaming death. So that was like the last thing we were doing for that day, and it was for Specialist Syrup, and I had never, like, really in my life gotten a chance to like scream as loud and as screechingly as I, you know, wanted to, or like I've never done that. Like never had an opportunity or a reason, thank goodness.
Yeah.
to scream like I was
Yeah.
on fire. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm counting my blessings here. But I got to, and like my voice like surprised me when it got to that level. It split in two actually. And yeah,
Wow.
it was so cathartic, and I've talked about this in other interviews too, so we don't have to dwell on it. But that's one of my like it was like a formative memory for me in my adulthood. I like came into consciousness during that scream, like
Yeah. I love that.
yeah,
That's what it's one of those things when you find out what you're made of, right? You're like, I
yeah,
didn't know I had this whole thing.
yeah.
And then you're like,
Oh,
maybe I'm
is
more
that
than I
metal?
think.
Do I have
Yeah.
metal in me? Is
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like your next album. It's now death metal, guys. I figured it out. Start over.
Just spell it differently, yeah.
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 Put a U in there for some reason. That's dude,
Oh,
speaking of
man.
screaming, different kind of
Mhm.
screaming.
Mm.
He-Man?
Oh.
Dude, Crass. Talk about career favorite. How can things even
Oh.
compare? And
Oh,
Yuri as well.
man. I know.
Dude, what a role.
That whole cast
Yeah.
just oh my God, what a treat it was to work on that project. And like a lot of actors have been doing animation much, much longer than I have, obviously, but I got to
Mm.
taste the animation lifestyle right before quarantine hit. So like
Yeah. You guys were together?
yeah, we were all
Oh,
together, like
what?
7 or 8 of us in like a horseshoe shape, like just shooting the
Dude.
shit, making fart jokes, like it was so
Yeah.
magical. It was so amazing. And like, yeah, and I got to do that for a little bit and experience that and go, and
Dude.
yeah, before quarantine hit and then everything changed. And I don't
Oh.
I don't know that it's ever going to go back to that. I just don't think it's safe for people to risk that,
Mm-hmm.
especially long COVID is still kind of like a gray area, and this is our livelihood. Like our voices and our throats and our lungs and our respiratory systems are our livelihood. We really can't
Yeah.
put that on the line.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that it's ever gonna go back to that, but I got to taste it, and it
Yeah,
was
you
it was
did.
magical. Oh my
Oh,
God, that
man.
project! I loved that project so much.
How was that audition? Because the character has so
Ooh.
much to her, but there's only so much you can put into an audition.
Right, right, right. I remember that audition coming around a few times. So I don't know, what their process was or how they were like casting their net or whittling things down, but I remember seeing that audition a couple of times, and yeah, there were definitely some battle efforts. That was a big part of
Makes
the
sense.
Master of Demolition.
You
Um
know?
yeah, and then there was a lot of humor I remember in the audition, and like being able to be free in the humor, I think was a big part
Yeah.
of it. And yeah, 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 that was I feel so goddamn lucky. Again, that was my first animated project. Like
Dude.
what?
Out the
Right?
gate, baby.
Like how? Like who gave me who thought that was okay? Like
Who let me do this?
yeah, seriously. But
A very smart
but
person, Judy. That's who. I've seen Crass. Killed
oh
it.
God.
Killed
I
it.
Thank you. It means a lot to me because, like, I wish I had a Crass on the screen for me when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been so special. I think it might have been a little less weird if, if I had a Crass to kind of like be
But
my
then we
cornerstone.
wouldn't
But
have the Crass we have now because it wouldn't be you.
I
Look at
guess not.
this. We
I
need this.
guess not. Oh, crass. And
Dude.
yeah, I didn't know going in that she was going to have an arc, like the as
Oh,
deep
even
and as
better.
dark as it got, like that
Yeah.
was a surprise. And I don't know when that got written, but when I found out that like yeah, that was going to happen, it was like this project that I already loved so much just became like, just like
Yeah.
yeah, just threw me over cloud nine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
I
was,
love that
yeah,
so
it was
much.
great.
How did you find working on animation versus working on video games? Because it's a turned up medium. It's a
Yeah.
different genre.
It's very different, and from with my engineering hat on, it was very different. I'd never engineered for animation before. Um,
Oh,
yeah, it was strictly video games at the studio that I was at, and maybe like a commercial here or there, um, but yeah, pretty much primarily video games. And so yeah, the workflow is completely different. With video games, like the fidelity and the like they have to be so much more particular about what they're capturing and what they're doing, because it in real time in gameplay has to go through a chain to be processed. If you're in a cave, if you're underwater,
Right.
so like it has to be as pristine as possible, so that when it is placed in these different environments and in these triggered in these different ways, it's still they can do what they need to this very pristine audio. Whereas with animation, I was noticed like there it was so much more looser. Like somebody would accidentally tap this thing, but they're like it wasn't a big deal, because it was such a curated linear experience that like they could put a bed of music under this particular moment if they really needed to, you know
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so it was like a very different type of like, yeah, being, slightly off mic was no longer a huge fucking deal like it is in video games,
Sure.
like, yeah, it was very, very different. So it was fascinating to see from that standpoint. And then from an acting standpoint, man, just being able to get the script and a story, beforehand,
Yeah.
and like just dive in and trying like to imagine all the different cuts and stuff, and like really just see from the very beginning of like meeting a character, like to like exactly the experiences that the audience is going to have with that character, like so you're getting to know the character as the audience is getting to know them. And that felt very different to me than video games, in that like Sarah already exists. She's already doing her thing. She's already a badass. And then she's been doing this fucking military thing for fucking 20 years, like
Yeah.
she's already there, like, as opposed to like Crass, who's like learning and young and teen, and like all these like angsty and like and troubled, and like all these things that like you don't necessarily get to play with in all types of video games. Of course there are video games where that is a
Totally.
like a part of it, but in animation, like I feel like, yeah, I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling, but
No, I'm so into that.
yeah, it was so much more linear, so that you knew exactly what kind of emotional beats had led up to a moment, Like
Yeah.
oftentimes in video games, not all video games, and this is definitely,
Totally.
yeah, but oftentimes in video games you'll get contextless lines that are in a bucket, and any one of these six will trigger.
Right.
But in animation, that's just not, that's just not. You'll have maybe a few alts to like, fill in the if they're gonna change it out. But like this scene, the way this plays out is very structured. So
It sounds almost like in animation, your performance is so much more of it, whereas in video games, you're putting these things into a bigger piece. You're like one color of a painting in the video game because you have to go through environments and all these other things.
that's a good way to put it. But at the same time, one of my favorite things about video games is exactly that, and acting in video games is that like you are one piece of this puzzle that is this character, the artwork, the movement, the performance capture, the outfit, like, the like and as much agency as the player has over this character, like, cosmetics and like, like and all that other stuff, and costumes and whatnot. Like you're just this one cog in this character that becomes it almost has like a life of its own in that way, because it's such a collaborative thing that ends up
Yeah.
being controlled by the player and being collaborated on by the player as well, in many regards too. So that's like one of my favorite things about video games. So you put that really well, like a painting, yeah, and your one color in there. I mean, I don't want to be reductive about it. I don't want to be, but
Sure.
but
It's just
but
as
yeah,
important, that color. It wouldn't be the same
yes,
without it. But as far as like
exactly.
just sheer weight of the piece on your back, it is
hmm
dispersed much more onto video games, it sounds like.
I don't know if it's dispersed as much as it is added onto, built upon.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure, sure.
yeah,
Okay.
built upon. Yeah. And I mean it is similar in animation, but like hand key drawn things are done in a way where that's not necessarily performance capture, or maybe there is performance capture that's
Sure.
involved in that, but like I
Yeah.
come from video games, so like I yeah, I can feel it just a little bit more viscerally in video games, but
Yeah.
But animated projects have been so creatively fulfilling, though. Like, I will say,
Cool.
some video game projects that I come into, I'm like, okay, gotta remember this is a job. Like,
Yeah.
they have the Japanese ref file, and all I have to do is match the timing and the tone, and that's it. I don't need to
Right.
give my zhuzh to it. Like, do my thing, and then I don't have to. Yeah, but and it's kind of technical in that way, but every single animated project I've been on has had so much room to play, and
Cool.
some video games do, but not all, and I'm sure not all animated projects do either, but
Everything is generalized, you know.
right, sweeping generalizations across the board here.
Yeah. That's the other name of my show. It's the tagline. I
But
so
yeah.
that I love that. I love when creative people are able to kind of stretch that muscle and like be
Mm-hmm.
themselves, honestly, more than anything else.
Oh, that's something else, though.
I sent you a message after I found it because I do a lot of research on anyone before I even ask them to come on, and I came across your cover, specifically of Death Cab for Cuties.
Oh, I will follow you into the dark.
I still listen to it, Judy. I'll be honest with you. You have
That
a
is so sweet.
gorgeous voice, which I told you already. I was like, hey, listen, I just found this video and I'm freaking out. Just those karaoke things, it worked out because I went down
I
the,
know.
the the Judy Alice Lee rabbit hole and made my way to Make Me Take My Time. How did you not drown? That's my real question.
Oh my God, I almost did several times.
I bet. I was watching it. I'm like, she should have
Was that
died
safe?
here. Yeah.
We even had like a safety person, with like tanks and stuff. And there were a few scenes where so that team that worked on it with me, it was a passion project during kind of the tail end of quarantine where we kind of felt like we needed something creative to work on, kind of like during that like very kind of scary slow
Hmm.
period. Um, and I met all those guys on PCAP stages.
Oh,
They're
cool.
camera yeah, they run cameras, they're camera ops and more, like, and headcam ops, on PCAP stages, and we became friends over the course of years and, and stuff like that, so I was like, "Yo, music, what are you guys doing?" And then, they were, like, down, and so they were yeah, that was a really cool team, really, really cool guys, really talented, and, they're killing it out there, they're working professionals just doing their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were a few scenes where the director Paul was like, "So how dangerous would it be if we laid out the fabric on the pool and then Judy jumped into it?" And the safety guy was like, "That is possibly the most dangerous thing you can do, and we are not doing that."
She will die.
Yeah, as cool as that would look, she will not be alive after this.
I've
So,
seen Lethal Weapon. You don't get out of that.
oh my God, yeah. There were a few times where I was trying to stay underwater as long as I could, and then I would come up for air, and then the fabric would be over my face, and I was essentially being waterboarded, and I
Oh,
panicked, like it was,
ah.
yeah. There were a few moments of where that happened, and that was very scary. But the scariest part of that shoot was that I couldn't afford to pay to heat the pool.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it was a we waited until August to shoot this because we were like, maybe it'll be a little warmer, summertime,
Sure. Yeah.
but it was still icy cold. And
Oh,
my mom, God bless her, she came out with me because she was worried about me and my
good
and
mom.
so she was like tending to me, during the shoot. I felt taken care of, but she had like a hair dryer and like it was crazy. I was definitely hypothermic by the end of the night, when I was taking that hot shower to like, when we were absolutely done. And there were a few moments where like the projector wasn't working. We did projections on top of the water, which was so cool, but something wasn't working right, or like the signal or something was they were troubleshooting, and I was in the water and I couldn't move because I would disturb the surface. So I was like
Oh
in
no.
cold water, supposed to be still, not sure how long this troubleshooting is gonna last. And I was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna do this again.
No.
Yeah.
For the art. For the art.
That was probably the most dangerous part of that. But having said that, really incredible once in a lifetime experience. So that was I love those guys. They're so cool.
And you made a cool thing. That music video is awesome. Very
Thank
Korean.
you. Yeah, very culturally specific in its horror. Yeah.
I dug it. I liked it a lot. It's so cool that
Cute.
you did that. Like when you think back on, like that's a thing that happened, and that
Yeah.
exists now. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And we got so lucky with those costume pieces with they're called hanbok, the traditional Korean hanbok. A friend of Paul's runs a hanbok shop, but she does like
Oh,
this amazing fusion stuff where it's like not necessarily traditional. It's much more like art exhibit and like fashion runway work. And she lent us these pieces, and they were just drop dead gorgeous. And there's no way we could have afforded those looks if if she wasn't trying to help us out. So I'm so grateful to everybody that came together for that. Like I still don't. Man, it blows my mind.
it's pretty cool.
I just wish that I had done better makeup on myself. It's hard not to watch your own work, yeah, and be
I
like,
don't.
oh
I can't.
God, that's my face. Like I said, like
Yeah.
I'm still like very weird in front of a camera, like
Yeah.
this idea of it becoming like forever, it's just so scary to me.
Yeah.
So that was that. I don't think I was prepared to, or as comfortable as I am now, even, still where I am, still not very comfortable, but like,
Sure.
a little bit more able to be myself.
Yeah.
Oh man. But speaking of which, real quick tangent, can we talk about how ironically the voiceover medium in which you have to be most yourself and not a character and not in the confines of anything else
Yes.
is commercials?
Yeah.
What? Nobody told me that.
I hate it. I'll say it out loud. I don't like
It's
it.
so hard.
It's so hard. It's
So
like
I'm
then
oh
the
my
rejection's
God.
personal because it's you.
It's you.
You can't even distance yourself to be like, oh, I put on a voice. It's like, no. You need to be yourself. So when it's not you picked, it's not
Yeah.
you picked.
Yeah, they just want a different human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Just somebody here's what they don't want. You.
You.
Yes.
Oh my God.
You're
Yeah.
right.
And I've seen voice actors like slip in and out of that like so easily, like the promo voice and like all that. Like, and then they go right back to their characters and then they go right back to themselves, and it's just like
Yeah.
this beautiful chaos. It's really crazy to see them fuck around like that in their downtime. But I'm just starting to break into the commercial world, and like it is so different. It is so different. And
Yeah.
it's not for lack of trying either. Like
Sure.
I've been trying for this whole time, but finally starting to make some progress
There
in
you
feeling
go.
more like comfortable in myself and not having to put on a voice or whatever, like because like I said earlier, sometimes it's easier and it's like weirdly more creatively fulfilling to work within constraints and
Totally.
bounds and restrict and like a conceptualized character with a backstory, like sometimes that is more creatively fulfilling.
Wholeheartedly agreed.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you wouldn't think so, like to put on a voice or put on an accent, it just feels like you're doing voices, but like no, like you're working with this character that is bigger than you, like
Yeah, I agree. So I'm glad you're getting more comfortable with on camera because you're in a movie coming out
I know.
with a mutual friend, Ryan James.
I know.
Got announced, dude. You're in all of it? How exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna
They're
be
the
really
best.
fun. They're amazing people. Again.
I
Like
just met them like 2 weeks ago. Walt introduced us
oh
and they were on the show. He's like, you got to meet Ryan and Catherine. I was like, do you know them and you're cool? I would love to meet them. Walt's my litmus test for everyone now.
oh amazing.
If they're friends with Walt, I want to be friends with them. And so I found out about this movie and I found out you're going to be in it.
Yeah.
How cool.
I know. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
We did like rehearsals and stuff and all over Zoom because I haven't flown in for it yet, but
Sure.
but it was really really great energy, and like I'm pretty excited to like kind of stretch those muscles. I actually
Yeah.
have in April I'm going to start taking on camera classes at the Denver Center for Performing Arts,
Cool.
just so I can go in as prepared as
Yeah.
I can with the time I have,
Totally.
So I'm trying. I'm not
Yeah.
just going in and thinking I'm going to be good at it, That's not how it works.
Right.
Like,
I believe
actually
in
put
you.
in some time and effort. Yeah.
You played Crass in He-Man, okay? Come on. You got
Oh.
something. It's just about turning the punch from a vertical to a horizontal, I get it.
Right. It's just about this face of mine. Yeah.
That's it.
I know. Yeah.
That's exciting though.
I'm really excited.
Like what a story to be a part of. 15
Mhm.
years in the making. I mean, dude.
Yeah.
That's what you want to work on, is stuff that's important,
Yeah.
to the people making it. Like, what a gift.
Mm-hmm. It's personal. It's like
Yeah.
it's been theirs for that long. Like that's so cool.
It is. It is. You're going to be a
Yeah.
part of it. I love it.
I know.
You're a part of all of it.
I know. I am a part of all of it.
Yeah.
Much like life. Yeah.
Much like life. Look
Much
at
like
that.
life.
Wow. What a way to stick it. Judy, we've been talking for an hour and a half almost.
Oh my goodness.
You
Wow,
survived.
look at, the time.
Look
I
at you.
survived. I did it. And I had so much fun. Wow, that was really fun.
This was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've hung out with you, so I already knew you were fantastic. But man, look at us. Look at us. It happened.
Yay. We did it.
This was so fun. But now, before I release you back into the wild, I got to ask, where can people
up?
find you online? Where can they find your stuff? Talk to me.
Okay. Online, I am Judy Alice Lee. So on Twitter, on Instagram, Judy Alice Lee.
Boom.
JudyAliceLee.com is my website. And yeah, I guess I could do a shameless plug here.
Yeah, let's dance. Get in here.
I got cast as the protagonist, Malinois, in the upcoming game Hades 2.
Hades 2.
Hades 2.
Dude, look at you. You're shining.
Oh man, another amazing team, another group of amazing people, another fucking rad project. And yeah, I'm just living in a state of constant gratitude. But that is like, GameSpot featured it as like the most anticipated game of this year. So if you're excited about it, you should check it out. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so pumped. Just because you're in it. Like, the game's cool and it's whatever, but you're in it, and look at you.
Stop.
Look at you. You're just killing it across the board. All right? I need you to
I'm trying.
get some bad stuff out there just to be like, okay, she's human. Cool. It's too much.
Stop. You've heard enough today. You know where I come from and why I have all this energy.
What more do you want?
Yeah. I had to funnel it into something so that my life wouldn't be so miserable as a child. No, I'm just kidding.
Relatable.
Yeah. Are we kidding?
Oh, I love it.
My
Hello, friends. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Interesting Podcast. If you'd like to follow the show, it's at Pod of Interest on Twitter and Instagram. If you'd like to follow me, I'm at Jedi Brian on all social media sites. You can also find me at brianballance.com. There you'll find my demos, short films, and a bunch of other really fun stuff. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and tell your friends. A good rating or review always helps and is greatly appreciated. Let the people know we've got some cool stuff going on over here. Speaking of cool stuff, we now have merch. Just search The Interesting Podcast on tpublic.com to pick you up some sweet gear. Also, I've made a Patreon, so if you'd like to support the show more directly and get early releases of the show, you now have that option over at patreon.com/JediBrian. On that note, special thanks to Daryl, Daz, Ben, and Chris. Your support means so much to me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So until next time, be well.